I'd like to ask you about that experience, because you pretty much had left serialism behind and you know, decided to move in a new musical direction. And also, in terms of your business practices, you weren't finding a lot of comfort in the traditional concert hall setting and forming this group where you're also performing instead of just being an aloof composer and someone else performs. This was pretty new thinking in the 60s.
Well, Brian, don't forget, the composer-performer is an old tradition. It's only in recent years that we've discouraged it. The 19th century had great performers, whether it was Chopin or Liszt, and then before that, we don't know about Beethoven. He was how good a player he was, because he lost his hearing after a while. But the performer, composer, and of course in Asian music that's the norm, and in African music it's the norm. We kind of got out of that habit in a way by defining the role of the composer in a more limited way. But now a lot of people have returned to it. My generation, because I was inspired by him, and also by the jazz composers. They are performer composers.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because this is happening in about 1968, 69.
Yeah.
And your group starts to look almost like a jazz band or a rock band in the way it functions, the way it looks for gigs elsewhere,
yeah,
playing in all these different kinds of venues. Were you inspired by the actions of the...
Oh, sure. By two things. By the jazz bands that I knew very well, and also by the Asian musicians who I also knew very well. By that time, I was starting to make very, very regular trips to India. I probably went at least 20 times in the years between the age of 25 to 55.
And were you into the Indian music first and then got into Buddhism as a philosophy, or was it the Buddhism?
I don't know. It's hard to say how those things work. I don't really know. I went when I was in India. I became interested in all kinds of things. I got interested in Gandhi because I met a guy who had a little rug store. I was past his store every day. I was living in a little town in the Himalayas, and I passed his store every day on my way to visit some other friends who lived there, on a road called 10 Mile Road. I didn't go all 10 miles. And one day, Mr. Sarek was his name. I still remember his name. He said hello to me. We were saying hello, and after all, he invited me for tea. You know how that happens. And before I knew it, I had a friend, and I had to leave home a little bit earlier every day because I had to have tea with Mr. Sarek before I went to see my other friends. And then one day he said, "Look, I have something I want to show you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "There's a little movie theater here, and there's a bit of film I want to show you. Can you come tomorrow? Can you have some time for me?" I said, "Of course I can." So this was in 1968, 68, 69. And I went to this little theater, and he showed me a bit of a newsreel, and it was from the Salt March, and it was Gandhi. And I didn't know who he was. Oh, I didn't, for whatever reason, and I heard the name, but then I saw this picture of this little guy walking into the Sea of Bengal, dipping his dhoti into the water and harvesting the salt, which was against the law, according to English law. And that was his protest movement. And 10 years later, I wrote an opera about him.